Hello, wonderful people. Welcome to my bookish family. If you're new, if not, and you've been here for a while, welcome back. My name's Steph, and this is going to be the Mid-Year Freakout Book Tag.
It could change the world.
This video was originally created by Chami, I think I'm saying that correctly, and Earl Grey Books. I will leave the link in the description below for the two creators who made this video. But I'm just gonna jump straight into it. I don't have any of the books physically here, so I will be putting them up on the screen. That being said, I wasn't tagged to do this. It just goes around every year, and it is that time again where we look back on the year so far and count our TBRs and say, was it worth it? Why, yes, it was. Book number 1, starting off strong with the best book that you've read so far. That is as you know, a really hard question because there have been so many good books. But I think I'm gonna have to go with A Closed and Common Orbit, which is the second book in the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers, because I bawled my eyes out. And this was in January. This was the first book of the year that made me cry. I've cried twice this year, very heavily, but that book was sobbing, like snot coming out of my nose. I couldn't control myself. I vlogged it. I'll leave a screenshot here. It was amazing. That book was so wholesome. That has to be the most wholesome book that I've ever read. And I mean, that could probably be said about any book out of the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers, which is why she is now an Insta-Buy author. Moving on to question number 2. Question number 2 is best sequel you've read so far this year. Being that I already said A Closed and Common Orbit, I'm not going to repeat that answer. I'm going to do my best not to repeat answers, but it's really hard, and most of my reading this year has been series, so I'm going to do my best. No promises. But book number 2, I gotta go with Brandon Sanderson. If you guys know, if you've been here, you know that I'm one of the co-hosts for the Cosmere Crab-Along, which is a year-long reading goodness Cosmere Brandon Sanderson read-along, hosted by the fabulous Brie and Casey over at Books Before Death. I will leave a link to all the goodness if you want to join us and jump in at any time. But we are about to start Mistborn Era 2 very soon, and I gotta go with a book from Mistborn Era 1. It is going to be The Well of Ascension. Now, was that my favorite of the 3 books in Mistborn Era 1? No, but it was solid. I'm pretty sure I still rated this a 4 stars. 4.5? It was just really good. I've not been disappointed by Brandon Sanderson yet. I really haven't. His plots are solid, his characters are solid, the growth is solid. I have nothing to complain about other than I really haven't given a book 5-star since I read that. Since I read Mistborn Era 1. Wait, have I? No, I might be lying. I might have given 1 book. No, I'm lying. I did give 2 books 5 stars. Yeah, I definitely lied. I gave 2 books 5 stars since then. However, they're different kinds of 5 stars, okay? They're not the same. They're 5 stars for different reasons. That should be a whole nother video in itself, like how you can have multiple kinds of 4 stars or multiple kinds of 5-star reads. That's something that's worth thinking about. But it was just, that was the last book that really hit home for me. I love a series where I can get lost in the characters and I just want to stay with those characters forever and ever and ever, which makes me really excited for Era 2. The other 2 5 stars that I read were more objective or like fun. This one was this will stick with me probably for the rest of my life kind of 5-star. So it deserves that spot. Question number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet, but want to. I have two answers for this. Okay, so one of the last 5-star books that I gave was Prosperous Demon by, I think his name is KJ Parker, and I love that book. And the second book in this universe, it is a novella, they're both novellas, The Inside Out Man, just came out. And I haven't gotten it yet, but I need to find time this week to run to the bookstore and get myself a copy of this novella, because that novella was everything that I ever wanted. It was dark, horror, comedy, and I say that very carefully because what was funny to me may not be funny to everyone else. To me, it read as a comedy. Also, it focused around an artist, and I am a sucker for anything that has art appreciation. So, that being said, question number 4, most anticipated release of the second half of the year. So Becky Chambers has a new book that is coming out very soon called Psalm of the Wild Built. What's it called? The Monkey and Robot series or something like that. Becky Chambers writes robots really good, okay? She writes them so well. These moral dilemmas that just make you want to cry. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment. This might disappoint some of you because I know that this is a booktube favorite, but it is not my favorite, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. So I've been co-hosting a read-along for the Ember in the Ashes series, and I was actually anticipating my first read of An Ember in the Ashes to be 5 stars. But it wasn't. It really wasn't, and I'm sorry. I mean, there were worse books that I've read this year. I've read some really bad books this year, and only one that I've gotten around to actually making a rant review for. But my expectations were not high for those. I actually went into those with 0 expectations. One of them I just went into for like kicks and giggles, right? But An Ember in the Ashes, I genuinely wanted to really enjoy that book. And I was so upset when I rated it 2 stars. Yeah, it wasn't a good time. It wasn't a good time. It just wasn't for me. I was not the target audience. And what I'm finding is that I'm very, very picky when it comes to young adult books. I had certain expectations of this that were not met. I did not like the development of any characters. I did not enjoy what little bit of plot there was, the trials and tribulations that our characters go through. I didn't care. It might have been the story structure for me. It's just things that didn't make sense, and I'm the kind of fantasy reader where I want a very solid structure. I don't do soft magic very often. I need to know what is possible, what is not possible, what are the stakes, you know? And yeah, An Ember in the Ashes didn't do that for me. So I'm really sorry if that is your favorite book, but I'm currently kind of struggling to get through book 2. I actually was reading it, the first one also, as a physical book and then switched over to the audio. And if you know me, I don't do fantasy as audio because it's really hard for me to follow along with what's happening and just to be able to imagine all the magic systems. I always do fantasy as physical read, and for me to switch over to an audio for a fantasy is saying a lot about how much I struggled. I'm not sure if you can hear the music in the background. Someone's blasting music outside. So, apologies if you can hear that behind my talking. But the next question is biggest surprise of the year, question number 6. And you know what? I might give that to The Way of the House Husband, which was a manga that we read for the Host Club, which is the manga book club that I run with a couple other friends. We read volumes 1, 2, and 3 of The Way of the House Husband, and I think I was surprised by how much I loved that manga. I knew that I was going to enjoy it in some capacity just because I love comedic mangas. It's one of my favorite genres of manga is comedy. But I loved it so much that I want to buy it. And I'm the kind of person that doesn't really invest in manga unless I know that I'm gonna want to keep it on my shelves for a long time. And for me to really consider purchasing this and just kind of waiting for the opportunity to do so tells you how much I love this manga. I want to read it over and over again, and I want everyone to read it because it is such a fun time. Way of the House Husband, if you haven't read it, you need to. It's this guy who used to be a Yakuza member, and he was just feared in the Yakuza. He was just this really bad gangster, right? And then he gets married, and he decides to settle down, and now he's a house husband while his wife goes out and works. And that's really uncommon in his culture, in Japanese culture, especially coming from a gang member. So he's just trying to live his life and go food shopping, clip coupons, but everyone else is trying to pull him back into the gang life, and he's like, nah man, let's clip these coupons. It's great, I love it so much. Best surprise ever. Favorite new author, either debut or new to you, for question number 7. Do I need to repeat it for like the 100th time? Becky Chambers, because I rated everything that she's written 5 stars. Like, it doesn't get better than that. I mean, technically I started reading Becky Chambers like last week of 2020 going into 2021. So I guess second to that would be Brandon Sanderson, who I've again rated everything I've read by Brandon Sanderson no less than 4 stars. What else can I say? They are just amazing authors who are worth all the hype. They really are. I'm starting to think that it's someone live singing outside. Can you hear that? Might be. Of course, when I start recording, that's when people would be outside the window singing, right? Okay. What a magical world we live in. Okay, question number 8 is newest fictional crush. And you know what? I don't think you're ever too old to have a fictional crush, okay? I don't think you ever reach an age where it's like, yeah, I don't do crushes anymore. I'm too old for that. You can be 99, you could be 101. And listen, old people gotta love too, all right? So I totally don't mind. Fictional crush. Oh, I tried not to repeat answers. Okay, I really love Sazed. I really love Sazed from Mistborn. It's just my favorite character. I just love them so much. I love their wit, their wisdom. It's just, what more can I say? It's Sazed. It's the knowledge and care that they have. Just question number 9 though is newest favorite character. That might be a hard one. I think I'm gonna change that answer. I was wrong. Wait, okay. Fictional crush is Ashby. Ashby from the Wayfarer series has such a special place in my heart as the captain who cares so deeply about his team on that ship and who regularly is mentioned throughout the series, and my heart just fluttered every time Ashby's name came up because Team Ashby, I love Ashby so much. He listens to all the concerns that his crew brought to him and he acted on them and he cared, and he was just so considerate and such a well-rounded, strong leader. It just, the listening skills of this man, okay? Okay, so I changed my answer. My answer for number 8, newest fictional crush, is Ashby. And my answer for number 9 for newest favorite character is Sazed. There you go. Question number 10 is book that made you cry. So I do have a different answer for this one because I cried recently in a vlog for A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. That book was so sad. I gave that book 5 stars. It's a YA horror, but it's not really scary. It's just really, really sad. I don't understand how anyone could read that book and not shed one tear. Just give me one tear, one single tear, because that was such a deep topic over grief and trauma and bullying. And I'm getting a little welted up inside just like thinking about it, okay? That book was really good, and I kind of read it mostly at the insistent recommendation of my friend Spence over from Sphinx Reads. And Spence was right. That book is amazing. I haven't seen the movie, but I'm not emotionally ready to see the movie. I'm not ready. I'm not. I don't know if that's gonna happen this year. Maybe next year, because I cried hard. Question number 11 is going to be a book that made you happy. And I think it's safe to say Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Cristal Maldonado made me so happy. I read this for a book tour, and I also ended up giving this 5 stars. And it's a YA romance. Man, talk about outside of my wheelhouse. When will you might ever again see me read a YA romance book? That does not happen very often. But maybe that's a vlog that I should do. Reading just romance. That might be fun. But this book was so sweet and just innocent and pure, and talking about stuff that I wish that I had to reflect on when I was a young Hispanic, overweight high school girl, and just wanting to be seen and heard. This book was so good. It was so good, and it just made me get all the flutters inside, and I just love it. I love it so much. Question number 12 is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. That's a little challenging because I've gotten and purchased so many books this year, and I'm not home right now where my bookshelf is, so I can't look at the covers. But just going off the top of my head, that cover, Prosperous Demon, just really takes the cake. I love that cover so much. It's so surrealist, and I can't stop thinking about it. Also, I feel like the cover for Leviathan Wakes, I really love that cover too, and I really like the texture of it. Here's one that I do have with me for a beautiful cover, House of Leaves, because in a perfect world, I will get to this at some point this summer. But that brings us to our final question, which is, name some books that you gotta get to by the end of the year. Hello, this is one. This has been on my TBR for a really long time. And even though I haven't made a 5-star predictions video, this is a 5-star prediction. As far as other books that I'm gonna get to by the end of the year, because of the Cosmere Crabalong that I'm co-hosting, I'm reading Mistborn Era 2, which is all 3 books in that. I'm also gonna read the Stormlight Archive for the first time, so Way of Kings and its sequential releases. I don't know if I formally announced this in a video yet, but I am part of the, oh gosh, if I can say the name. I can never say this acronym right. It is the SPSFC, which is the Science fiction, fantasy, independent publishing book competition that is being hosted by Hugh Howey and Duncan Swan. I'm so excited to be a part of this, and more details I guess will come out about that soon, but I am on a team with quite a few other booktubers who we are going to be reading some independently published self-pub sci-fis to find a contest winner and bring you the best sci-fi. So you guys know how much I love sci-fi, and if you don't, well, now you know that horror sci-fi is my favorite subgenre of sci-fi, and I'm just really looking forward to supporting independently published authors and, you know, finding more great books to recommend to you. This is so exciting. But more details will be announced about that in the future, because it is supposed to be kicking off in the next month or so, and that is going to be a year-long project. So that's basically going to take up the rest of my year. So I guess now I'm going to tag some people, and I feel like this is a video that every booktuber kind of does just about on booktube. So some of them may have done this video already, some of them may be planning to do it really soon, and I could just be late on it, but I'm gonna tag them anyway, and you guys should please still go and support them because they are awesome. The first person I'm going to tag is Mrs. Moody Reader over at Mrs. Moody Reader. I'm also going to tag Sasha from The Wild Sasha. Oh my gosh, I gotta mention Dreaded and Redded, who I met recently on a live stream and absolutely love. They're just fantastic. And how about Ez over at Ez Books? Please definitely go check out all of these creators. I will leave a link to their channels in the video description below, and if they haven't done this video already, then you are tagged. I hope you guys have a great rest of your reading year. Let me know what your favorite book of the year so far is so I can add it to my TBR. I'm always looking for great book recommendations. I'm doing my best to post videos every week. I'll see you later. Bye!
What's it making, Mr. Wonka? Mr. Wonka worked the factory.